Hi everyone. I wanted to just really make a very short, simple video for you on the transit of Jupiter into Cancer. And I don't really want to go much beyond that transit in this particular video, and just keep it very straightforward. So Jupiter has a 12-year cycle, very reliable 12-year cycle. So it spends approximately 12 months in each sign. So it is beginning to move into Cancer on the 9th of June, and it will stay there until the 30th of June, 2026. And I think we can very clearly see how it's worked in moving through Gemini. We have had a real, I think, explosion of information coming in at us, but also, of course, it's really blown up the whole trade and tariffs issue, because Gemini is connected to trade and tariffs because it's ruled by Mercury. So perhaps with Jupiter's move into Cancer, that whole area will begin to settle down a little. But see where this falls in your own chart. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website. Go to this link below and get a two-part video series that is not a personalized birth chart analysis. These are teaching videos, and you can orientate yourself to your own birth chart and understand with all of these videos I put out, the astrology videos, where these planets fall in your chart and what it means for you. Because yes, Jupiter will be moving through Cancer for the next year, but which house area is that for you? Which house area? Is it your family? Is it your job? Is it your health? What is it? And to help you again, I'll put another link below, because I filmed a very simple teaching video on the transits of Jupiter and Saturn through the houses. And because Saturn is also changing sign, moving into Aries on the 24th of May, that I think will be a very helpful video for you if you're a beginner. But just to give you an idea, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So normally it's known as the Great Benefic, and normally it will bring good things to that house area. Normally it will bring recognition or success or abundance or ease if things have been difficult. Occasionally, if there's a problem in that area, it can expand the problem. But generally, it works well for you. It works in a positive way. And just as an example, I mean, if Jupiter is coming over your ascendant, that can, I always think of that as stepping into the sunshine, actually. And the real trick with Jupiter transits, because they come back to the same sign every 12 years, is to look back 12 years ago to pretty much the same month and see what was happening in your life then in terms of this sense of expansion. So let's say 12 years ago, Jupiter was coming over your ascendant. Well, what was happening for you? Were you expanding your, particularly because it would have been in Cancer, you might have been expanding your family connections, getting in touch with family that you hadn't seen for a while. But if we just talk about signs in general, this can be you expand your social network, you expand your business, you enroll on a study course, whether that is professional or metaphysical. You go on a big trip because Jupiter is connected to long distance travel. It may well be that you have a sense of liberation or freedom. It's that sense of, woof, I'm going to leave that burden behind and I feel very free. Can be that kind of a feeling. So if it's coming over your midheaven, transiting your midheaven, this is known as a 12-year reward cycle. And as it's moving into your 10th house, that can bring in, again, success or abundance or recognition in some way. You can win a prize. You can win an honor of some kind. And you can also be very much appreciated by about in terms of the quality of the work you're producing, and work can come in more easily for you. So you get the idea. There's a sense of ease and expansion, can be liberation, can be recognition, can be honors, that kind of thing. But the real trick is to look back 12 years ago and pretty much to the month and see what was happening in your life then, and very much be guided by the house area that it was moving through, and will be obviously moving through again because it's moving through the same sign again. And there's a kind of echo effect. There's a vortexing upwards and an echo effect and a building on whatever was happening last time. It's also connected very much to publishing and writing, particularly if it's in the ninth house. Broadcasting, that kind of thing too. But the teaching video, which is not expensive at all, will teach you much, much more. I think also, if we're thinking about Cancer, there could be a greater urge to connect to your family, your loved ones, your friendship groups, particularly family, or those people you regard as family. Cancer is normally your biological family, but it could also be your family of frequency. And I think increasingly more and more of us are perhaps stepping away from our biological family for whatever reason, and really seeing our friends, our network as our family of frequency, and they represent to us our real family. But if there's been some rift in your family, your biological family particularly, this can be a very healing time for you. Now, it's wonderful. Actually, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, which means it operates to its optimum, really. It operates very easily and freely to its best in Cancer. And I think the other thing to say is, which is very important, is all of the other further out planets are shifting out of water. I mean, Saturn will and Neptune will briefly through the late months of this year and early month or two of next year, they will retrograde back into Pisces. But essentially, the planets from Saturn outwards are moving into air and fire. So Jupiter for the next year is the main regular planet, let's call it the bread and butter planet, that will be in a water sign, and water is emotion. Yes, we've got Haumea, the dwarf planet. It's about 2 degrees of Scorpio right now. But if we're thinking of our regular planets that are very familiar to us, Jupiter is the one for the next year that is going to be in Cancer. So what does Cancer mean that Jupiter is going to expand? Jupiter is very connected to the home. And so there could be a stronger need to nest, what I'll call to nest, to feel emotionally safe and secure in your home. So home may become a bigger deal in some way for you. You may even be moving to an ideal home or a foreign home. Jupiter, travel, foreign home. You may really want to do a lot of improvements to your home. DIY is usually boosted, expanded when Jupiter moves through Cancer, and it usually has an effect on house prices. House prices often go up when Jupiter moves through Cancer, although the economy is so volatile and turbulent right now. I don't necessarily want to predict that, but it should affect house prices in some way. But certainly DIY, improving your home, refurbishing your home, that could be quite a trend for the next year. You may even want to start to create a kind of sanctuary area in part of your home where you do all your meditation, or you do your chanting or your creative work in some way. And that little area of your home, that corner, becomes really saturated in this high frequency energy that is just pouring onto our earth right now. It will help us to get more in touch with our intuition as well, because Cancer is ruled by the moon. So really try and tune into that and go with your intuitive hits more than perhaps you haven't done to date. And you will want to be in touch more with your emotions, that's for sure. And it can be a very big time of self-healing for you. I mean, we have all been through a massive time, whoever we are, in the last 5 years. It's been enormous, and there've been a lot of challenges within families, between families. So this can be a wonderful time of healing with that, but also self-healing emotionally and self-care. Self-care is a real biggie, because be aware that these outer planets in air and fire broadly moving forwards, particularly from next year, are going to be so fast. And even from this July, as Uranus starts to move into Gemini, if you think now is moving quickly, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to be so fast. So really take the time to get into the practice, the default habit of what is your self-care? What gives you self-care? Is it, having a lovely warm salt bath? Is it candle gazing? Is it meditating? Is it listening to sacred music? Is it being in nature? Is it watching your breath? Whatever simple default free practice you have that to you represents self-care, really get into the groove, really get into that default, because that will serve you well with so many of the planetary energies being speeded up. Particularly, it's starting this year, but even more so as we move into 2026. So there's an instinctive need, or understanding rather, with Cancer of what you need to feel nurtured. And it's also excellent at understanding what others need to feel nurtured too. You just tune in, you just instinctively know what other people need to feel nurtured. Is it a hug? Is it you making soup at the Aga? Cancer is very connected to food. It can be an emotional feeding of self and others, or it can be a literal food feeding self and others. And so, really tune into that intuitive sense as well to support other people. We have all, as we know, been through such a lot, and everybody in one way or another needs support going forwards. We're going to come together much more in our tribes, in our groups, in our networks, and Jupiter is going to help us with that. So it's a very motherly energy. It's interesting. I see Cancer very strongly in people who are chefs, who literally feed people. I see it very strongly in the charts of people who are teachers of young children, primary school, very young children, because there's this very lovely motherly energy. This may bring up more issues with your mother or your grandmother. The maternal line may become a bigger deal, but again, be guided by the house area it's moving through and what happened 12 years ago. And then if you can go back again, another 12 years, pretty much to the month, what was happening then for you. And it's also important to say that when Jupiter on the 9th of June crosses into Cancer, 0 of the cardinals, 0 of Aries, 0 of Cancer, 0 of Libra, 0 of Capricorn, 2 degrees either side of that, they are also the world axis, not just 0 of Aries. All of the 0 of cardinals, 2 degrees either way, 28 of the mutables to 2 degrees of the cardinals, that represents the world axis, where events are thrown onto the public stage in a bigger way. They have more impact on the public stage in some way. Now, so from the 9th of June until the 20th of June, Jupiter is going to be between 0 and 2 degrees of Cancer. It is also, over that period of time, going to be square to Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune, of course, continue to be hovering around that world axis for much longer. But between the 9th and the 20th, Jupiter is going to be square. That's Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 of Aries, 0 to 1 degrees of Aries. Now, I don't want to get into that now in this video. I'll save that for the update video for June, but that is potentially going to expand everything that Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the Aries point is going to be about. So, and that's going to be pretty significant. You've got 3 important planets on the world axis from the 9th to the 20th of June. So those are some of the ways, and of course, I'll be expanding on these as we move through the next year, as will all astrologers, and we start to see the manifestations of these. But what are some of the ways that, I mean, this is very loving energy. You know, it's beautiful. Jupiter is exalted, as I say, in Cancer, so it's very loving energy. So ways in which Jupiter almost expresses in a rather shadow side, or not so well, it can be overly emotional. It can be overly protective and fussy around other people. They're, you know, trying to do the right thing, but kind of just being a little bit too much. And it can be clingy. Think of the crab hanging to the rock. You know, the symbol for Cancer can be overly clingy in a relationship and hang on too long to a relationship long after the usefulness has gone out of it. That's what that Cancer energy tends to do, whether it's a romantic relationship or other relationships too. It can be overeating, overfeeding self. It can be overly sentimental, that you're romancing the past, because Cancer is ruled by the moon, very connected to the past. So you can be overly sentimental in terms of idealizing, well, everything was perfect then, and it's really not great now. And it was fabulous then, but look at where I am now. So it can have that sort of a tendency, or it can be in a kind of emotional self-absorption as well, because you're diving deep emotionally. And it can bring in that kind of melancholy as well. So if you're experiencing, it can be an emotional dependency, you know, that clinginess as well. So if you're feeling that you're experiencing any of those expressions of Jupiter in Cancer, one of the many wonderful things about astrology is if we understand the language, we can say, that's my Jupiter in Cancer. That isn't expressing as well as it might. Therefore, I know the positive expressions of Jupiter in Cancer, and I'm going to shift gear into those. You know, we can shift gear. We can use astrology strategically if we're dipping, and say, okay, I'm going to switch gear and use it in a much more loving, positive way. So we are going to need Jupiter in Cancer more than we do in an average year, because of everything I've said about the other outer planets. And John the Baptist, Jupiter in Gemini, where it's been until the 9th of June, has given us a kind of John the Baptist of what we might expect once Uranus moves into Gemini, which it's going to do on the 7th of July. And essentially, it's going to backtrack a little in the late months of the year, but essentially, as of April 2026, Uranus is going to be in Gemini until 2033. Long time. So Jupiter has been softening the ground, if you like, for that bigger transit of Uranus into Gemini. And I'm going to do a separate video on that because that's a really big deal. Just like all the other really big deals that we've got in 2025, because again, it's happening, another outer planet ingress into a different sign. So I'll save that for another video. But another aspect, I think, a beautiful aspect of Jupiter in Cancer, which may not have applied 12 years ago in previous cycles of Jupiter moving into Cancer, is in a bigger way, it may connect us to sacred sites, into history in a bigger way than before, because our consciousness is expanding. We may want to dive deeper into our ancestry. Remember the past, the familial past, into our lineage. We might go way back in the family line, and that will feel really rewarding to do that, to have Cancer is where we have a sense of connection, family connection, as I say, whether that's biological blood connection or increasingly a family of frequency. You know, where do I feel rooted? Where can I connect? Where can I feel anchored amidst all of this very rapid change that's happening in the world? It's a very traditional sign, Cancer, very conventional sign. I think also this will bring up, and again in a bigger way than previous cycles, a desire to connect to ancient wisdom. Ancient wisdom, and this may be connected to the cycles of the moon, because it's ruled, the moon is the ruler of Cancer, biodynamic farming, that kind of thing, planting to the moon cycles, connecting to the wise ones, the indigenous people, with all of that ancient wisdom that they have carried down the line and never lost the way we as modern humanity have lost it. There may be a deep yearning desire to connect to that ancient wisdom, that indigenous wisdom as well. And I think the other thing this will help with, which again, it may not have done before, because I think this is going to become a really big deal, is the wisdom of the seas and the wisdom of the sea creatures, the dolphins, the whales, the turtles. And the reason I say that is Cancer ruled by the moon is not only connected to the seas, obviously it's a water sign, but very soon after Jupiter's ingress into Cancer on the 9th of June, we have Uranus, as I said, moving into Gemini on the 7th of July, and immediately coming conjunct to Sedna. And I've talked about the myth of Sedna elsewhere, but remember, she's the Arctic goddess of deep seas. And in her myth, she really, when her fingers were chopped off by her father, they transmuted into beautiful sea creatures of dolphins and whales and turtles that are very high vibrational, and essentially are helping to lead humanity's evolution. Very lovingly, they're helping to lead humanity's evolution. So because Jupiter's moving to Cancer, it's happening almost co-present, very similar time to Uranus's ignition of the Sedna myth in Gemini, how this is expanding our consciousness, our neural network. I think this could be really big in terms of not only helping us to understand the out there that I've talked so much about, the galactic connections out there, but the connections to inner Earth, but also these beautiful sea creatures that hold so much love, so much forgiveness, so much wisdom for us that we've just been blind to until now. So this could be so beautiful, exquisitely beautiful. So it's really important to see where Jupiter is moving through in the house area of your chart and observe that. I mean, this is part of the wonderful astrological journey you can start on. I'll put the link for my 2-part video series below as well. So if you're not familiar with the basic orientation of your chart, you can get that and you can watch that as many times as you like, for as long as you like, to infinity, to really start to dive deep into those house areas where Jupiter transits, because it only spends a year in each sign, as I say, so it's a fairly easy one to follow and learn wisdom with every passing through, every transit through every house in your birth chart. Hope that's helped you. More videos to come. This is such an incredibly busy time. June and July, I think, are going to be some peak months in 2025. But they're all peak, but June and July could be bigger peaks, I think. God bless. Hope that's helped you. Be back very soon. Bye for now.